Hello. So basically, I just want to show you guys a demo of a game that myself and Jennifer from Happy UFO Studios are working on currently. Um, it isn't officially titled yet, but we've been going with the name To the Stars. I also came up with an idea, SpaceCraft or SpaceCraft to the Stars. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you guys. So the idea behind this game is that you're basically you've got a spacecraft and you have all of the tools available to you to customize that spacecraft, and build it how you want. So, so let me show you guys firstly what happens with this spacecraft. So we've got two buttons on the screen right now. We've got the left button and the right button. The left button takes us to the customize window, and the right button launches the spacecraft. So if we launch the spacecraft, what you'll see is that we fly off to the right in a horrendous fashion. And the idea behind this game, obviously, being to get as high as possible. If I right-click this spacecraft, it will restart. The controls aren't fully mapped yet, but this will be working on iPhone and Android and all of the various mobile platforms, maybe even HTML. I'm not sure yet, but we'll definitely work something out. So let me show you guys the customization. So basically, this is the customize spacecraft window. Now, this red button here, again, all these buttons are just default buttons. We're still working on this. This is very early development. We've got this panel down the bottom. Now, these arrows basically allow us to flick between screens, but we only have one screen of items at the moment. As you hover over the items, you'll get a brief description of each of them. And again, there's some issues with this. The font's not finalized. It goes off the screen, but we're going to work all that stuff out and get this sorted. Now, basically, in the customized screen, you're given a whole bunch of components. Now, these components can do various things. Basically, the main two components you'll be working with are the air cells and the fuel cells. Now, the fuel cell, the fuel cell will give you a longer thrust. You'll have more fuel to burn, but obviously you need to mix that fuel with air to get the thrust out of it. So in this panel up here, this is the components of your spacecraft in the top section. And what you would do is you would mix air cells and fuel cells. Now, each item has its own weight. So a fuel cell weighs 3 kilos and a air cell weighs 2 kilos. The center column doesn't represent anything at the moment, but obviously if you put 2 kilos and stack them up in the center, it creates a no weight difference. And if I test that, what you'll see is the spacecraft goes straight up. Now, currently, only the weight mechanic has been introduced. We're still working on the fuel and the thrust and the stabilization features. Again, this is really early development, so just bear with me. And of course, and also, when you come back to this screen, all of the items have been erased. That won't happen when this is released. I just haven't finished developing that part of it yet. So as you saw, I put 6 kilos of air cells in the center. It caused no weight difference. If I was to put 2 kilos of air cells onto the left side, what you'll see is that the spacecraft should veer off to the left. And that's exactly what happened. Okay, so obviously, with that said, we're going to need to come back to the center. So if I just restart that again. Now, if I were to add 2 kilos on either side, what you would expect is that weight would even itself out. And you'll see that is exactly what happens. So again, I'll just restart that. Now, if I was to add, say, the small air cell and the large air cell, obviously the large air cell weighing twice as much as the small air cell, what you'll see is it should veer off to the right. And it does. So that is the weight mechanic that has been introduced into the game. Now, I'm still obviously working on the mixture of fuel to air ratio. So you'll need to add fuel and you'll need to add air. And of course, they're all going to have different weights. So you need to balance those weights. On top of that, you're also going to need to add things like engines and batteries, because you need power to power your spacecraft. And obviously, with more power comes more heat. So you're going to need to add coolant to your spacecraft. Now, an example of what this might look like, you might have, say, 2 fuel cells on the bottom. And obviously, more fuel cells is a longer a longer burn on your thrust. For a more powerful burn, we're going to add more air to that fuel. So what you'll have here is a mixture of fuel and air that lasts for however long you have in the fuel. So obviously you run out of fuel slower by having more fuel, but you have less power by having less air, and you don't have enough space to carry more oxygen tanks or more fuel tanks. So it's a bit of a resource management game, as well as being a crafting sort of game as well. And at the start of each game, all of the weight variables for these items will have a random generator. So every time you play this game, it will change. So there won't be any there won't be a perfect spacecraft. No one will be able to figure out the best spacecraft to make, because your game will be individual for you. And so yeah, we add some batteries for power, and that's going to generate some heat in our ship. So we might need to add some coolant cells to cool it down. And we haven't really finished off all of these items or added any balancing yet. So you're just gonna have to bear with me on that. But if you look at the spacecraft that I've built at the moment, it's perfectly symmetrical. And so what that's going to mean is that this spacecraft should go straight up. But when we add more items, you might be tempted to use, say, an energy crystal for whatever reason. We don't know what that does yet, but they're going to be there, like this. And you might have to be forced to offset that weight for whatever reason to get more power, because your spacecraft keeps exploding because you haven't added enough coolant. For whatever reason, you might need to do that. And there'll be other items as well, such as external wings, which should improve stabilization. So with this spacecraft, if I click this button here and I launch it, you should see what happens. And it was heavier to the left side, so it flew off to the left. And the duration of the flight, again, that hasn't been set because we don't have the calculation for fuel to air ratio and all of the other algorithms in place, but they're coming. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and please definitely let us know what you think. So yeah, thanks for watching.